Hey man, my Twitter's been blowing up. Did you say I was gonna do an entire video if Hutchinson lost his next game? I think I might have said that, yeah. We're not actually gonna do that though. No. Why not? Well, because it's a terrible idea. Okay, that's what I thought the reason was. I'm just making sure. Hi kids! Victorious puppies! This team is ruining my life. Why do I watch hockey? Stress relief! We can, and we will. Leafs lose 5-4 against the Chicago Blackhawks in a game where the Chicago Blackhawks started real hot and the Leafs had to come on in the end only to fall short. Is this video from last year? And maybe more importantly, in the scope of the entire season, mid-game it was announced that Mitch Marner is going to miss a minimum of 4 weeks with a lower body injury. So that does give the Leafs a little bit of flexibility in terms of Mitch Marner's going to go on LTIR, I assume. But what it doesn't allow the Leafs to do is have Mitch Marner in the lineup, and he's really good. And what is amazing, truly stunning, is on the road, on the second half of a back-to-back, without Mitch Marner, the Leafs looked like they wanted to actually score goals for the first time this season. The problem was they had to be down by a field goal in order to make it happen. Dude, we were recording the brand new Panicle Pizza Steve Dangle podcast, and that went up last night. Sean Fitzgerald joined the show, and holy smokes was he a good guest. And thank goodness, because it was a frustrating show for me. But I get in the car, knowing that the game had just started. I know I couldn't have missed more than like 10 minutes. And I get in, oh, it's 4 goals on 9 shots. And I go, what? And I know it's Michael Hutchinson in net, but I'm like, okay, I haven't seen any of the goals. I'm going to reserve judgment till I get home and actually see the thing. What I eventually got home and saw was some of the Leafs' best hockey of the season, and oh my goodness, they almost actually did the thing. But they obviously didn't, so I went back and went, okay, what the heck happened in the first half of the game? First half of the first. And I guess the question is it Michael Hutchinson's fault? All right, let's look at the goals. The first goal, I just burst out laughing because it's what I've been talking about for the entire season. The Blackhawks dump it in on Riley's side, they ring it around the boards where he can't get it, and Cody Ceci is the last person on the ice to realize where the puck's going. That leads to a miniature fire drill in front of Michael Hutchinson, and holy actual Moses, break this pairing apart. Stop! 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 It's over! This pairing is over! Break it up! Stop! Stop! The Leafs are off until Wednesday, and Morgan Riley should spend every waking hour picketing outside of MLSE. Enough. Enough. Break it up. Now, the goal that ended up going in was a deflection, but you make your own luck there, man. You make your own luck. And if it wasn't a deflection, there was a guy wide open. They had several chances at it if they wanted. Like, the number one thing we've talked about over the past couple games is how do we get Tyson Barrie going? And the number one thing on defense, I think, all season has been how atrocious the Riley-Ceci pairing has been. Dude, I see a pretty obvious solution. I'm thoroughly done with that pairing. Done. Stop. Stop. And I actually wanted to say it, I did forget to say this in the Philly video, I thought Ceci actually had a decent game. He had some moments where he came up decently defensively, he had some nice breakouts. These two do not work together. Stop. Goal 2, off a face-off. It's just a really weird play by Jake Muzzin. I don't know what he was playing at. I think he tried to flip it out and just didn't get enough of the puck, and he gives it right to the Blackhawks. They get a chance, and I think the difference between good goaltenders and great goaltenders is rebound control. Michael Hutchinson's a good goaltender. Like, he obviously is. He's at the NHL level. He is so far beyond the AHL, usually, when he's sent down there. But just a big old juicy rebound to the Blackhawks, and of course they're gonna bury it. Kirby hickory dickory dock. Goal 3, Kane's got the puck, and appropriately this goal was scored on a Sunday because Hutchinson is on his knees the entire time. He's not giving himself a chance to even see the thing, and Kane is able to put it in. Nylander scores to make it 3-1. Wonderful. The fourth goal was a 4-on-3, and I mean, it's not the goalie's fault that you put yourself down 4-on-3, I suppose, but holy mackerel, was that a no-shot attempt. Really good passing play by the Blackhawks, but he looked like an actual salmon. I'm not allowed to use footage, but here is a reenactment of that goal. I appreciated the effort in spirit, not so much in execution. Leafs obviously start to take over the game after that. I mean, a little bit too little too late, right? William Nylander pots his second of the game, and Austin Matthews, for at least 3 games now, has been in beast mode. In absence of Mitch Marner, the Leafs really need those two to step up, and they absolutely have. So at least on that front, I'm not worried. John Tavares bangs one in. He's got a couple goals since coming back. The finger seems fine, and he's producing without Mitch Marner. That's nice. The Leafs have a wide open net. Wide open! A chance to tie it! It is a dog pile in front of the net. Puck goes the other way. Travis Dermott bites a little early. But again... Brandon Saad is able to shovel the puck in. It's a nice little pass. It's a nice finish from him, I guess. The long and short of it is, like, it feels unfair to Michael Hutchison because so many games this season, I have actually felt like he's given the Leafs a shot and they've hung him out to dry and they've made these mistakes. The thing about being a goalie in the NHL is your job is to stop pucks. Curtis McElhaney's style didn't belong in the 90s so much as it belonged in a snowbank in the 90s. Like, what a nut. What a nut. But he went out there and stopped pucks. Stopped pucks like he never has in his entire career. Like, he ruined the Leafs' whole mantra on backup goalies is you get the second half of a back-to-back and all you got to do is pull a rabbit out of your hat every single time. And no one else has been able to come close. Michael Hutchison has not gotten a win yet this season. Jonas Enroth could not do it. Garrett Sparks straight up cannot do it. And please get out of my mentions with this stuff about Garrett Sparks owning the Chicago Wolves shutout streak record now. Congrats on caring about the Chicago Wolves for the first time in your entire life. We already knew Garrett Sparks was good in the AHL. The Leafs have another goalie who's good in the AHL. His name's Michael Hutchison. It's actually in the NHL where we're having the problems, thanks! The Leafs don't give up on the game. They keep pressing. They actually managed to draw a penalty on the Blackhawks. That's excellent. Okay. Okay, stop. Okay, give them the puck. What are you doing? There's less than 2 minutes left in a clue. I tried to strangle the television, which, let me tell you, is difficult. Precious seconds are shaved off the clock, but hey, a nice passing play on Andreas Johnson-Berries with 40 seconds left. And the Leafs so close to tying a game in the dying seconds that they had absolutely no business redeeming any points from. None! You didn't deserve a point in this game. You don't deserve points in games where you go down 4-1. And yet, it's happened against the Leafs. Actually, I seem to remember it happened against the Leafs in Michael Hutchison's first game of the season, which was on Hockey Night in Canada. This was frustrating on 9,000 fronts. You need a gosh darn save out of Michael Hutchison. A gosh darn... Freddie... We're not asking him to be a miracle worker. He has been. That little sequence against Philadelphia was absurd. But an occasional something, an occasional anything, an occasional bailing out your team even when they don't necessarily deserve it. That's your job as a goalie, man. And for all the fuss that I kicked up about the Leafs being on the second half of a back-to-back, and oh, there's travel, and oh, they're tired, and that's what I thought it was at the beginning of this game. Meanwhile, back half of this game, they play with as much energy as I've seen them on rest at any point this season. They probably played their best hockey of the season in the second half of this game. And it's something they didn't have to wait until Mitch Marner was out of the lineup to do, and they didn't have to wait until they were down 3-0 or 4-1 to do. So the Leafs are at such a confusing point yet again. It's amazing the 180 turns this team takes like every 3 days. Like, they won 3 straight, not the sturdiest 3-game win streak, but, you know, they had that 11-round shootout against Philly. Wasn't a very good game. They had a tight win against the Kings, but I thought the Leafs were better than the score showed. And then they irk out an OT win over Vegas. Rematch against Philly a week later. They don't get the shootout win this time. I thought they had some bad luck that they helped create. And yet another frustrating game against the Chicago Blackhawks. The last 3 games, if I'm correct, is that 7-6 OT Carnival that was Garrett Sparks' first game of the season, holy smokes, last year. They were down 5-0 to the Blackhawks at home, I want to say, last year. Leafs 5-4, made a go of it, almost tied it in the final 10 seconds, and then repeat. But I'm getting away from what I was saying. They won 3 straight, now they've lost 2 straight, and they don't have Mitch Marner, and it's the manner in which they lose games. I am so unbelievably frustrated with this team. Maybe the most important mission the Leafs have this year compared to seasons past is to get Freddie some rest. And they didn't do it. Like, Hutch is their backup. They took their shot with it, and I mean, he's not making a lot of money, and sometimes you get what you pay for. They haven't won a game with him. He's a non-option almost. He's pretty close to it. Like, most games with Hutch so far this season, you're like, well, the Leafs at least had a chance. Last year, it was no shot. So, how on earth are they going to get Freddie rest when their backup still only plays the second half of a back-to-back, because that's really all they deserve, is to play in back-to-back scenarios. Not necessarily the second half, I would still dispute that, but holy smokes, they don't deserve to play on a random weeknight with rest. And if Freddie gets hurt for even the amount of time that Mitch Marner's out, tuck the season in. It's over. So I'm frustrated because Kyle Dubas needs to go out and address the backup situation, get Freddie some rest, get this team a goalie who's an option. Meanwhile, how's he supposed to do that when the Leafs can barely afford spares in their lineup with Zach Hyman coming back? They can barely even afford spares, and the only reason they're going to be able to afford them going forward, or at least over the next month, is because one of their best players is hurt. And I don't know whether to be madder at the coach or the players for how the Leafs played in the second half of the Chicago Blackhawks game. It was some of their best hockey of the season, for sure, and they should be praised for that, but it also made me realize, oh my god, there is absolutely no excuse for how they've played in every other back-to-back this season. They've looked like crap. Like Babcock, after the game, Matthews, 4 assists in a game, unbelievable. He still only played 21 minutes, which is not a ton. It's what you would expect a franchise center to play, frankly. We're not talking McDavid 24, 25, 26 minutes. 21 in a game where you're down almost the whole time and he's a goal scorer? Yeah! And Babcock after the game, oh, I played them way too much. And I'm just sitting here like, is he doing a bit? Is he kidding? Like, are they coached by the most oblivious man on the planet? Did you just say that? Read the room, man! Zach Hyman's coming back. It sounds like he's coming back for a hell of a game. It's the Leafs playing against the New York Islanders on the road. Always fun. But I think the Marner injury is a reminder that stop waiting for the team to get healthy. Like, if your plan is our roster needs to be exactly this to win, you're going to fail. I think I'm frustrated as a fan because I don't know what this team is. Forget game to game and period to period. I don't know what their effort's going to be from one 5-minute chunk to the next. Like, there are positives. Like, Matthews has clearly hit another level. Nylander, I think, has clearly hit another level. I really think Andreas Johnsson's having an underrated season. He's skating so well. I'm curious to know what you would do with this team because other than shaking up the lineups and pairings, I'm really not sure. Questions. Should this be Hutchinson's last game? I don't know about last game, but ask yourself this. Do the Leafs have a shot at winning a playoff series with that goalie? Do the Leafs have a shot at winning a playoff game with that goalie? A game. One game. Well, there's your answer. So I don't know if it should be his last game, but they clearly have to do something. It's not good enough. Bigger concern, coaching or backup goaltender? Yes. Did you notice how Taves went and stood up for his teammate? Oh yeah, I haven't even mentioned that. Jake Muzzin just demolishing Brandon Saad in the first 30 seconds of the game. And Jonathan Taves going in and fighting him. It was a clean hit. Saad was going for the puck and Muzzin just laid him out. But Taves fights him, takes the instigator, Leafs get a power play, and do nothing with it, and the Chicago Blackhawks come back and take a 4-1 lead. I don't know how the math works out on this, but that's one of those things where it appears to be a stupid penalty and you take that risk, but when it works out, God, does it feel good. I don't even think Mike Babcock would mind that. Like, if you're going to take a penalty, make it count. These little hook in the hands and little slashes on the thumb that the opposing player doesn't even feel. Taves didn't even throw a punch. He just threw his gloves off and grabbed Muzzin. Like, I haven't even seen that. If Hyman comes back Wednesday, should the Leafs reunite the Hyman-Matthews-Nylander line? You know, I've definitely wondered that, but the Leafs need the Johnson-Matthews-Nylander line more than they have at any point this season. They need them to be playing their best hockey. And honestly, I think they are. And Hyman's coming back after a long layoff, and it wasn't a nice injury. I think you ease him back into the lineup. And you can do that by putting him with Tavares, who is also an important part of the team. But I think the Matthews line needs to be the top line. It needs to be the pony that Babcock rides. It needs to play 21 minutes a game without thinking that it's ludicrous that they're doing that. So I think Johnsson, Matthews, Nylander stay together. Hyman, Tavares, throw more back on the right side and see if it works. I'm not sure. 26 shots in the third period last night against Chicago. If the Leafs can do that for one period, why can't we dominate for 60 minutes? Some have suggested that the team is being overcoached instead of playing to their strengths. Is this a coaching issue or something else? Well, it's score effects, for one thing. When a team has a big lead, they tend to crawl into a shell. This is true across all sports. It's true in basketball, soccer, everything. And it is doubly true when it happens to a good team, or at least what should be a good team, against a bad team. And, dude, the Chicago Blackhawks this season have not been good. I think the only reason they came away with even a point in this game is because they had a Vezina candidate from last year in net for them. But we've seen this at least one point in every season where Babcock has had Matthews, Nylander, Marner. We've seen this, where they just play boring, awful hockey. He usually waits for around December, but this year it's almost been like, okay, I didn't like our first 3 games, so here's what we're gonna do. And I say, man, let them go. Let them go. They're obviously not good at it. Like, you saw that Flyers game the other day. Freddie still had to make 37 saves. Go! Let them go. And this is the thing with Babcock, man. Like, I don't think you need to think he's a bad coach or anything. I just don't think there's a fit here. I really don't. I think there's a disconnect in the roster construction and what this coach wants. The effort hasn't always been there. Sometimes they look lazy and disinterested, and I think when you're playing a brand of hockey that you hate, that's entirely possible, right? Well, they're professional athletes and they're paid a lot of money and they should just play. Well, if I had wheels, I'd be a wagon. Teams fire coaches all the time, man. This won't be special if it happens. This is interesting. We'll end here. Give Kaskisuo a shot. Also question mark there. I want to know your thoughts, Steve. Hutch ain't cutting it. So, the Leafs have Casimir Kaskisuo on the Marlies. He, in 8 games so far, has a .928 save percentage. He's having a real good start to the year. It's interesting, because the Leafs are about to play a lot of road games, and the Toronto Marlies are, of course, going on their Hell road trip in November that happens every year because there is a horse show in their arena. And the other goalie is Joseph Woll, who I think is going to be very good one day. He's been okay. He's looked like a young goalie in the AHL. They're not always lights out. And you're going to leave him alone for that whole road trip? However, if you're a cap-strapped team who needs a backup goalie, you know what the cheapest available option is? See if one of the guys you have can do it. If the Leafs can afford to get Kaskisuo a start in the near future, I think it's worth having a look. So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends that you need to try for more than just half the day. There is a brand new Panago Pizza Steve Dangle podcast that's up. We had our guest was Sean Fitzgerald. He was extremely good because he is a smart person. And this week is the final week to raise money for Easter Seals Ontario, charity that helps out kids with physical disabilities. The link is down below in the description like it has been for months.